Hello everyone, and welcome back to some more G-Senjou no Maou, with me, Phantoms Y. So, things have really heated up in Central Boulevard. Usami fell down off the Sano building. Kyosuke is trapped in this room, waiting to be killed by Hashimoto and his cadre. Things are intense. So, let's get to it. Naturally, the door Hashimoto used to leave was locked from the outside. I guess that means that I'm now locked up as a captive. How fitting for someone who is awaiting his public execution. Someone had confiscated the cell phone from my pocket. I can't call for help, and besides, Usami and Eiichi are the ones who really need help now. Think. I look about the room. The door is the only exit. There isn't even a ventilation shaft. No wonder the room is so murky. I hug the wall as I head for some junk in the corner. A bunch of comics and porno mags were tossed around in a pile. Great. Nothing convenient like a rock drill or something to break through the wall. A loaded machine gun would have been great too. Now think, damn it! How do I get out of here? How do I escape and save Usami and Eiichi? How can I get that door open? I scolded myself for getting chicken-hearted. I'm not a righteous superhero or anything like that. Looking back at the kind of life I've led, I can't be expected to be saved by friends or anything of the sort. Now, think. I'm the son of a Zai Gonzo. My life may not have been decorated with good deeds or medals, but it wasn't so easy as to let some small fry like Hashimoto do me in. Gonzo would roll over in his grave if he could see how pathetic I was right now. The cremation and burial are today, after all. His soul is still in this world. Wait, cremation? I exploded in a grin. Watch this, Gonzo. I'll make my escape in a death-defying show, just for you. It should provide some entertainment during your flight to hell. I gathered up the magazines and the wooden table in the center of the room. I arranged the items in a lattice pattern, tearing or breaking them up as needed. I used anything that seemed burnable. Then I lit the pile of paper with the lighter I found on the table. Now, burn. I gradually added tinder until the fire grew in force. The material was dry, so all I had to do was watch it burn. The flames popped and crackled, even. The first signs of black smoke began to coat the ceiling. However, having no place to go, the smoke started creeping back down to the floor. The temperature of the room rose at a dash, and I could feel the heat against my face. Black smoke gradually filled the room as it swirled about, searching for an exit. More. Burn. Choke. Thicken. And then, when that door opens, bellow out in a gust. I coughed at the oppressive offense to my lungs. I couldn't even keep my eyes open. The air was starting to thin out. As the force of the fire weakened, the smoke grew even thicker. I crouched near the door. I beat at the door furiously as I fought for every breath. Hashimoto said Eiichi is being held on the floor above this one. That naturally implies that there's a guard or two up there. They'll come rushing in to see what all the fuss is. And the second that door opens, I'll slaughter the lot of them. I continue to pound. I strained against the door to listen for footsteps. There was no one coming. Why? Water started pouring from my shut eyes. Get the hell over here! Why aren't they coming to see what's wrong? I beat the door with all my strength. My fear manifested as sweat rolling down my back. What if there is no one out there? What a comedic way to die. The fire behind me was waning, and the crackling started to weaken and die down. I put my face to the bottom of the door in order to get at the bit of air seeping through. I can't afford to stop pounding, but my right arm won't move the way I want it to. I almost black out a few times. I can't give up. If I were to die here... I made a fist so tight my fingernails dug into my skin. What would happen to Usami? For what reason would a Zai Gonzo have died? Dad, that's right. You died protecting me, Dad. I don't give a shit whether that's true or not. I'll be damned if I'm going to join you just yet. My body, covered in smoke, refused to continue operation, but my will adamantly refused to die. I wasn't even myself anymore. I had just become an animal, desperately beating at the door. I had to teach them a lesson. I had to teach them that pissing on me means pissing on a Zai Gonzo. I burned with hatred to fuel my anger. My memory was starting to get fuzzy. That was when I first realized the fresh air coming through my nose. My brain cells suddenly reactivated. My consciousness became clear. It felt like my body belonged to someone else. The right hand I was using to beat on the door was now beating against air. Smoke bellowed out in gusts. The door was gone. It was finally open. I heard a jumble of footsteps, met with fresh oxygen. The fire revived with crackling sparks. I prepared to pounce. I heard a flurry of shouting. Water! Put it out! Actually, that was their shout, so water, put it out, you know. It was the chirping of my prey. After standing up and checking the direction of the smoke, I subdued my reason. It had no place in the actions that would follow. I charged with all my strength. I saw 2 hyenas. They flinched at the sight of me. I swung my arm and sank my fist into their faces. I then dashed to the side of them, not even waiting for a scream. I made my beeline for the stairs. The kid who tried to grab my arm from behind was met with a sharp overhead kick. A dull throbbing graced my arms and legs on multiple occasions. Each time it did so, a scream accompanied it. I'm not particularly strong. These boys' resolves were just particularly weak. Brutality is the very element of a wounded beast. Once again, dark smoke ran along the ceiling in search of an exit. But this time, I chased after it. I raced the smoke to the first floor. I bumped into someone, and it turned into a struggle. My body instantly reacted to his voice. The air in my lungs fueled my burning hatred. Unabated coughs, unabated tears, unabated groans leaked out of us. The ceiling and floor twisted and blurred. Headache, nausea, upset stomach, lack of oxygen. Burns on my throat, burns on my organs, chills, fever, infection, internal bleeding. My body used delirium to beg me for mercy as I infringed upon the small fry before me. If you want to kill me, then go ahead and try it! I'm not sure how many times I hit Hashimoto after that, but one thing is certain, to the bitter end, the one motivating force of mankind is and always will be anger. That was an intense escape. Her body stung all over. Even attempting to move was enough to make her bones ache. Something chilly brushed against her face. Snow. It was snowing. Something chilly brushed against her face, and she felt it. That means she's still alive. Haru looked up at the sky. It still bore the deep darkness of night. The pain in her elbow was particularly strong. She would likely develop a nasty bruise there. Haru realized that she had fallen unconscious. But why was she even alive? She knew for a fact that she had fallen from the roof. Perhaps she recalled the moment of her fall. When she glanced behind her at the edge of the roof, she saw a ray of hope. She remembered thinking that if she jumped towards it, she might be saved. Haru was now dangling in midair. She'd avoided being splattered on the street by landing on the window washing platform. It was suspended no farther than 15 feet from the rooftop. Apparently, she'd also somehow managed to land on her feet. Well, she'd always been good with heights. Haru took a deep breath. Each heavy gust of wind struck fear into her heart. Just calm down, she told herself. The cable suspending the platform seemed to be quite strong. As long as she didn't panic, she was in no danger of falling. But still, how the hell am I supposed to get down from here? Mr. Somiya asks softly, despite the gun at his back.
これから皆で大型バスに乗っていただきます。当然今川先生も一緒です。観光気分ではないのだがね。ご安心。10分もすれば目的地に到着します。
And that destination will be your new confinement area. It would be dangerous to keep the hostages in the same location the entire time. Seeing as the incident began at the Sun Oak building, the police will have done their homework on it. That likely wouldn't even be necessary, as they should be familiar with Imagawa's schedule for the day. Naturally, they'll have their sights set here first. If they airdropped a few commandos on the rooftop, we wouldn't come out of it unscathed.
それぐらいの距離なら歩いても行ける。
Imagawa was still right as rain.
さすがは CO2 削減を標榜している先生ですな。しかし外にはボートが充満しておりました。私の命令も聞かない血気盛んな若者がいるかもしれません。それでもよろしいですか？
That's not a lie, as the rioting out there was never really any of my concern. All I did was order them to play to their heart's content. I wouldn't even be able to guarantee my own safety out there. For all I knew, I'd be shot dead by some kid on crack cocaine.
お分かりですね。では出発しましょう。
My fists hurt. Heavy, irritated breathing bothered my ear. Huh. Oh, H. You okay?
無事じゃねえけどな。なんつうの、満身創痍ってやつ。
Where's everyone else?
みんな逃げたよ。火事だから。
I smelled something burning. Fire? Oh yeah. I did that, didn't I? I had Hashimoto pinned down to the ground. He was moaning, and his face was swollen, something awful. After the adrenaline rush wore off, my entire body started screaming. I had lost nearly all sensation in the arm I used to pummel Hashimoto.
おい、長介。逃げるぞ。
Eiichi stood up beside me in tatters.
奴らがまた現れる前に散らかろうぜ。
His legs were wobbly. He must have taken quite the beating. Yeah. Hashimoto said there's a way out through this club.
そうだよ。だから急げっての、火に巻かれるぞ。
You wouldn't happen to know where my cell phone is, would you?
知らねえよ。みんなもうまた帰るよ。ボンボンだろ。
I can understand why Ichi is so worked up. The conflagration downstairs had already spread to this floor.
急げよ。出られなくなっちまうぞ。
I guess the police won't be able to use this route either if the building goes up in flames. Give me your cell phone.
俺もねえよ。こいつらに取られちまった。
Guess I'll just grab one from Hashimoto then.
長介。なんだよてめえ。
Usami's number is 090. Perfect. I hate myself for how well I remembered it.
ちょっと落ち着けて。お前の考えてることは俺にはわかるです、さすがに。
Yeah, he has stuck with me a lot. God knows why.
無茶すんなって。こいつらみんな狂ってんだぞ。つうかおめえ、俺以上にボロボロじゃねえか。
Apparently. I really, truly... What? Usami?
繋がった。
Huh?
自分携帯電話とか持つの初めてでして。
Oh. When she first called him.
マイ携帯は。
What?
ああ、特に用事はないです。繋がるかなとドキドキしたかっただけです。 ですから、ちょっとだけでよろしいんですがね。
I don't know. That morning, maybe? If we went out to the shrine around 4 or 5, it might work out.
決まりですね。
Wait. What's decided?
要は、私を選べってことです。
Oh, for... Just get out of here. Huh?
はい。
Where's the outfit?
してるじゃないですか。
That's a jogging suit.
目かしじゃないですか。
To my father in prison. I'm sorry. Even though I can't read. Even though she's the daughter of your enemy, Eiichi, you go on and get out of here. I reach into Hashimoto's breast pocket as he lay unconscious. I feel something hard and rectangular. Alright, found his cell phone. Yep. Just leave. You're probably right. But the police are caught in one of Mao's trademark stalemates right now. That's not it. No thanks. You're useless. You'll only slow me down. I ended up overstating it a bit. Sorry. I meant to say that you should get out of here and go straight to the police. They'll be dying to get any information about what's going on here. Just shut up and get going already! There was a familiar gun laying on the ground. Presumably, it was one of the one Hashimoto had been carrying. I picked it up and pointed it at Eiichi. Sorry, man. He spoke solemnly. Eiichi ran to the door. I should get out of here too, before I become smoked meat. Hashimoto was coming too. I smack him across the cheek. Oh, sorry. You should probably get the hell out of here if you don't want to die. Forcing my protesting body back up to my feet, I dash outside. This music is awesome! Haru heard the sound of an engine from the distant streets below. It looked like it could be a bus. The large vehicle's cabin lights were on, and it sat idling in front of the Sano building. The lights betrayed the silhouettes of nearby people as they boarded the bus in a line. Those must be the hostages. She should make sure to note where this bus drives off to. Her cell phone suddenly rang. The surprise almost made her slip and fall. The platform shook in protest. She was overcome with emotion over his familiar voice. Her eyes began to tear up. He asked if she was alright. He told her not to worry about it. Where are you right now? He asked in a deep voice. Haru briefed Kyosuke on the current situation. She told him about falling from the roof and how she'd survived by jumping to a window-clearing gondola. She also made sure to add that the gondola was now a bit shaky. He responded with a brief question. Which floor? Got it. His voice left her again after one last short statement. Just sit tight. She found herself dumbstruck by the time the call ended. Don't tell me. He's coming to rescue me? Just then, the platform shook violently. One of the cables supporting it made a nasty groan. It must be the result of the impact from Haru's fall. I made my way along the streets to the Sano building. I drove my battered body forward, one step at a time. My right hand held Hashimoto's unwieldy gun. Unlike him, though, I had a bit of experience with firearms. As long as I was within point-blank range, I'm confident that I wouldn't make the critical mistakes he did. Central Boulevard was enveloped in silence. I guess everyone had finally gotten tired of rioting. There were quite a few survivors here and there. A woman peeking out from an upper-story window immediately closed the curtain upon meeting my eyes. I guess that sums up my appearance at the moment. Oh, Haribe! A number of men suddenly appeared from a dark alley. They were Yakuza from the Soniyama group. Well, the office I located on is located on Central Boulevard, so I suppose it shouldn't come as a surprise that they'd get wrapped up in this. Good to see you're safe. They wore an assortment of different weapons and apparel. Among them was a shirtless man holding a sword, and a man in a suit with sunglasses and a gun.
いや坊ちゃんこそ災難でしたね。
Even Haribe was unique in a sense, retaining his usual smile in the face of this situation.
いやね、自分らも今まではやられる一方だったんですがね。さすがにガキは寝る時間じゃないですか。
I see.
何せ親衛隊のゴミどもまでガキに加担してるって話じゃないですか。親父が許してやったもんを忘れてくれちゃってな。
He had a cruel smile on his face. I somehow doubt that Karibe is capable of death. Looks like we won't be making it to Dad's funeral.
そこですわ。親父の死に目に会えなかったばかりか。葬式にも顔を出せねえとっては夏代までの恥ってやつです。
I shook my head. Azai Gonzo doesn't need some formal funeral. The look in Haribe's eyes changed. He's probably pissed off right now. Right about now. In fact, I know he is. The beast is wailing in anger. Can you hear him? I don't need a goddamn funeral. Just get out there and slaughter all those who would oppose me. Well, Haribe? Can you hear him? Haribe looked at me, appraisingly for a moment, then opened the way. I continued my march onwards.
兄貴どうしたんです？
いけねえいけねえ。この堀部ついぶるっちまった。
はい？
一瞬親父が地獄から帰ってきたかと思ったぜ。やっぱ怪物の息子よ。
I made my way through the quiet streets of Central Boulevard. My cough continued unabated. Pain coursed through my entire body again, and nausea and chills threatened to bring my feet to a halt. I staggered unsteadily through the night. There was a boy sleeping at the side of the road. After he awoke and slowly came to his feet, his eyes first went to my face, then to the gun I was holding. And then he moved off the road. I spotted a few groups of people on foot, and a few people on bikes or motorcycles that seemed to be on lookout. None of them tried to stop me, presumably because I never tried to hide or run away. Cars would come to a stop, but soon continue on their way. Mobs on the street would send me glares, and then just pucker up their frowns in disgust. Covered in soot, dirt, and blood, no one stood in my way. The ground shook before my very eyes. The light seemed to dance and warp in the air. I just continued forward. I was still a long ways from being able to lose, from being able to lose? No, from losing consciousness. It's not a privilege. Some passion drove me on towards Sano HQ. I had no idea whether it was love or hatred. I merely prayed to the devil that what little strength I had wouldn't leave me. At least, not until I get there. One of the 4 cables supporting the platform had snapped. After a jarring metallic sound, the platform inclined at a slant. The tilt gradually worsened as time passed. The bolt fastening the cable closest to the building was beginning to come loose as well. She tried to jam it back in, but without proper tools, there was nothing she could do. If a second cable snaps, it's all over. The gondola swayed about in the air like a swing, and the footing became precarious. Haru beat against the window pane. She put as much strength into it as possible without losing her footing. Regretfully, the glass was unaffected. Were there any tools she could use to break through the thick glass? Something hard or sharp? No, there was nothing. Haru almost fell off the platform in panic. The knowledge that the more panicked she became, the more the platform would shake, did nothing to stop her trembling legs. I made it. I looked up at the skyscraper. The sky was dark. I could not spot the platform Usami spoke of. Wait a second. This is rather odd. Weren't the hostages being kept in this building? That should mean the terrorists are holed up in there too. But despite that, it almost felt like a ghost building. At any rate, this isn't time for hesitation. I need to get inside. The only thing roaming the entrance was silence. I dragged my feet along the floor, searching for an elevator. Is there really no one here? I suddenly stilled my breath and came to a halt. I could see the outlines of a person under the emergency lighting, standing out in the darkness. He held a large black gun at the ready. He was speaking into the darkness in English. I hid behind a large pillar and assessed the situation. The man was planted in front of the elevator hall, of all places. He stood straight up and at attention, without moving an inch. A minute passed with no change in the situation. What should I do? Should I launch an attack? No, that would be entirely in vain. Judging from his posture and equipment, he's a pro. Maybe I could distract him. I could use the old throw a stone and wait for him to check it out, and then make a break for the goal. No. I'm not sure how many elevators there are, but there's no guarantee that one would conveniently be stopped at the first floor. I can't even be sure that they're running at all. So does this mean that I should just wait until he leaves? That seems to be the smartest move. It seems like terrorists have abandoned this base. The terrorists. Though I couldn't tell you why. As long as I wait patiently, he's bound to rendezvous with his comrades at some point. Then again, the light indicating the emergency exit right to my left was illuminated. A stupid idea crossed my mind. I caught a glimpse of the handrail to a staircase just beyond the emergency exit door. It really was an incredibly splendidly stupid idea. My entire body was just aching, screaming at me to go on instead of just stay still. Usami could be anxiously awaiting my help as I sit here. And the more I sit, the more my strength leaves me. Resting makes me want to fall asleep. And on the other hand, moving forward fills me with energy. Yes, that's the way it should be, someone howls into my ear. Finding something reassuring in that advice, I head towards the bright emergency exit sign. Of course, I can just take the stairs to the 47th floor. Unable to contain herself, Haru dialed him on her cell phone. What is it? He bluntly replied. Inside the building. She could feel the ground shaking beneath her. If they are, then they're mightily understaffed at the moment. That's right. She'd just seen a bus loading the hostages in a short while ago. Thus, there's no reason to guard this building anymore. If she just waits a little longer, help will arrive. Beats me. Are they not operating? Come to think of it, she recalled seeing all the lights in the building suddenly turn off. It's also possible that they left a lookout here. As she was pondering the possibilities, Kyosuke spoke up in a deep voice. Are you alright? Just then, her ear was blasted by a clattering sound from a phone. It was soon accompanied by the... excuse me. The voice is giving out. It was soon accompanied by the rattle of the wind. She heard a groan. Oddly enough, what immediately followed was a calm response. So you could fall any minute. Haru was completely in the dark about Azai Kyosuke's current situation. She was overcome with anxiety. Do you know which side of the building you're on? That was the most she could say. Kyosuke paused for a moment before voicing confirmation. He followed it up with a deep voice. I'll be there in 10. She could guess that Kyosuke was injured. But what was sparking all that bravado? The call ended. The only sound now was... The only sound now was the whistling of the wind. He's not planning on climbing the stairs all the way from the first floor, is he? Haru didn't understand. He was supposed to be a cleverer man than that. And he'd never once uttered a word about loving Haru. Why? Nevertheless, her chest was ablaze with warmth from the notion. I stepped through the darkness. The emergency lights served as my only beacon. I climbed the stairs one by one. I forced my leaden feet into action. My consciousness seemed to drift in a state between waking and sleeping. But despite this twilight state, there was still one thing I had control over. It was almost like a special consciousness, one that had been stored away for emergencies. It urged me repeatedly, upwards and onwards. Rather, it didn't urge me. It seemed more to pull me along, as if it was a separate entity. But regardless of whether it urged or pulled, it was commanding that I move as fast as possible. There wasn't much time left. I've lost count of how many times I've had to peel my soles off the ground against gravity's heavy toll. My thighs are probably swollen like a balloon. Passing areas that look identical to each other, over and over again, only serve to aggravate my dizziness. I focus all the strength into my legs as I fight off the nausea. I think I've cleared 10 floors. Just 10. I'll need to repeat what I've done nearly 4 more times. God, it's like I lost a bet or something. Damn you, Usami. If I had just never reunited with her. Multiple times now, I've nearly tripped over my own feet and tumbled down the stairs. I lean against the wall and almost pass out then and there. This is more than just drowsiness. This is a distilled darkness trying to envelop my entire head. Out of the corner of my eye, I see a number written on the wall. 26. I'm still just on the 26th floor. I couldn't hold back my groans as they pierced the darkness. My teeth chattered from harsh chills. Still, I hadn't been brought to my knees just yet. Even if it was just barely, I was still standing. I don't need anyone's help. Setting my sights on the staircase landing above me, I set out once more. The tilt grew steeper, its shift heralded by the creaking of twisted metal. How much longer would it hold up? The tension, cooperating with that terrifying force, gravity, had pulled sweat across Haru's face. The fear that any subtle movements could upset the balance of the gondola, however, erased any thoughts of wiping it away. She simply stood and watched the window, picturing the moment he would show up on the other side. Think, is there anything she can do in this situation? Sometimes Haru doubted whether or not she even had the right to be loved by Kyosuke. Has he really forgiven her? After all, the one who brought his life and family to ruin was her very own father. Was it acceptable for her to just sit in fear, awaiting her prince like some damsel in distress? Haru calmly looked over at the cable that was on the verge of snapping off. What would happen if it snapped? The horizontal footing would become vertical. The platform's main face would be unusable, moving only. Haru carefully made her way to the front of the platform, then placed her foot upon the bar that housed the cable mounts. She didn't know if there would be any point to it. If it came down to just 2 cables, the platform wouldn't last much longer anyway. It would only delay the inevitable. No. He said he'd be here in 10 minutes. She had to believe in him. Haru took a deep breath and decided to wait for her savior. What floor am I on now, I wonder? God knows how many steps I've gone up by now. The steps, even the flat landings, seem to twist and writhe. It's hot. I feel like I'm burning alive. An incessant wheezing is coming from my lungs and throat. What am I still lazing around here for? Hurry! Move. Step up. Forward! Damn the soles of my shoes! They refuse to leave the ground, as if they're glued there. My side is met with a stabbing pain whenever I try to breathe. I'm alone. Alone in an artificial construct with no lights and stagnant air. Not even moonlight is permitted to shine in here. But hey, that's what you get when your god is fickle and worthless. Good thing I'm not asking for his help. Solitude makes a person stronger. And if a woman you must protect lies at the end of that solitude, all the better. If you think you can stop me, go ahead and try. There's no room for heaven on this wayward soul's stairway to glory. The howl of a beast tore at my eardrums. It was my voice. I like it. It was Azai Gonzo's voice. That turbidity of my consciousness forced me to mistake my own voice. The monster of fear that had pervaded my entire being roared out. Move forward. Shoulder the karma of your mother, who died squashed like a worm. Bear the sadness of your brother, who went mad with revenge. And go forth to your enemy's daughter. My head bumped into something. It was a hard wall of iron. I tried pushing against it, but it didn't budge an inch. My fingers started to twitch. My chest was scorched by an inferno of vexation. I looked up at the wall. 46th floor was painted on it. It was a fire shutter. The thick wall that had once saved us now served as an obstacle blocking my path. Clenching my teeth, I rose to my feet. Could something this stupid really be happening? It's just a little further. There are only 1 or 2 more floors to go. There must be some other way to the upper floors. Dragging along my beaten legs and spirit, I searched the 46th floor. I walked like the dead. It's kinda late, but maybe I should just use the elevator. The terrorists might be gone by now. No. Once I got in front of the elevator, I realized something. It's still in operation. There'd be no need to guard an elevator that doesn't work. That means there might still be armed men on the first floor. If I call the elevator to this floor, they'll no doubt find it suspicious and come to check it out. I'll need to find another way. Like a freight elevator. Or a dumb waiter or something like that. Like a ventilation shaft big enough for a person to fit through. Like anything at all. Like some hidden secret passage. Or a hole that the terrorists blew up in the floor. Is there anything at all to get me started? Search. It's already well past the 10 minutes I promised. Will I be breaking yet another promise? Usami! I bet she placed her faith in me, even now. And yet, God damn it! After exactly 1 hour, I received another call from the police. I'm well aware that Superintendent Tokita is in a tough position. The government and police force are going to want to retain their firm position on this. And that, of course, means they have no intention of allowing the release of prisoners. That said, it's much too convenient to expect me to release the hostages and surrender without seeing proof that at least some of the prisoners have been released. The government probably figures that all they need to do is fire enough cops to correspond to the number of casualties, and everything will turn out fine. However, Superintendent Tokita's next words completely overturned my expectations. I laughed through my nose. It took nearly 5 hours less than I thought it would. Honestly, I wasn't sure how probable the odds were of the government accepting my demands until I actually put it into action. It just goes to show you how valuable Imigawa's life is. Or perhaps it's a trap. Very good. He then went on to list the names I'd prepared as dummies, one by one. I didn't care about any of these people to begin with. I only included them because I figured they could work as leverage in my negotiations with the police. To be truthful, I wanted to give the green light right away, but if I jumped at the offer, they would find that suspicious. I should pretend to be angry, but also show a willingness for compromise.
ということは
筧陽介、南田君江、鮫島俊勝の3名だ。
ふざけるな。たったの3人だと。
As expected, my father made the list. After all, though there was a time he was rumored to be part of an extremist faction, he's not the real deal. In reality, he's just a good-natured death row inmate with absolutely no political ideals.
これでも最大限の譲歩だとは思わないか？
Indeed I do. It's fantastic.
断れば武力解決も辞さないというわけだな。
最大限の譲歩と言っただろう。これがいかに常識を逸脱した決断か。
I
gave the nod for the time being.
回答は後回しにして他の条件を聞こう。
無論人質の解放、封鎖区域でのボートの沈静化、そして
我々の投降というわけだな。
If we were judged according to Japanese law, it would go, without a doubt, result in the death penalty.
では、囚人の身柄についてだな。
I gave details on how the prisoners should be escorted out of the country. They are to be airlifted to Komura, near the Japanese coast, then shipped to North Korea by sea. It's rather similar to my arms smuggling route. I've arranged for a comrade of mine to pick up my dad after the ship gets out of Japanese waters.
了解した。それではこの取引は成立したと考えていいのかな。
5分後にかけ直す。
I then hung up the phone. In any case, the answer I give in 5 minutes has already been decided. I couldn't suppress my emotions. I won. It was a grand sense of fulfillment. Father. Ooh! Just as Haru had predicted, the cable had ruthlessly snapped. The only thing at her feet now was a single bar. The number of cables supporting her weight has dwindled down to 2, and they groaned incessantly under the stress. Haru had begun to balance herself constantly, as if she were a part of some deathly circus. That alone was a great difficulty. It was only compounded each time the gondola, or rather what was left of it, shook wildly. The wind played pranks on her as she tried to straighten herself up. She was out of time. The cables wouldn't last much longer. The sounds they made as they lay on the verge of snapping were like the shrieks of the Reaper. Haru called his name in fragmented breaths. There was no sign of anyone on the other side of the window. The only thing visible there was her reflection, pale from fear. She gritted her teeth and withstood the fear as long as she could, but there was no sign that her circumstances would improve. It was so cold. Snow began to fall once more. In this situation, even the nearly weightless snow was a highly unwelcome guest to this platform. God, what should I do? She could literally hear her heart pounding. Her legs started to rattle. Courage, the very defining trait of a hero, gradually started to diffuse away from her into the vast depths below. She timidly looked upwards. 2 cables. They played the role of Haru's lifeline. But very soon, the curtain would be coming down, and their act would come to an end. I'm sorry, Kyosuke-kun. In the end, she decided to think of him. She didn't want to spend her final moments trembling in fear. He would always complain that she was disgusting, but when all was said and done, he always found the time for her. He remembered the cheesy little promise they made when they were kids. He was the one who had brought spring to her desolate life. It was her feelings for him that rescued her from drowning completely in an ocean of vengeance. She wanted to play for his sake, if not hers. Then the moment of truth suddenly visited upon her. Her feet felt no pressure. Her heart leapt from her throat. Her blood began to flow backwards. She let out a pathetic scream. She reached for the window in a last stubborn attempt. It was in vain. The glass was just too smooth. She shut her eyes in despair. Suddenly, The sound of glass breaking interrupted the darkness. Good. So he did come to save me. Only, he was too late. Haru was already in midair. Gravity had invited her to Death's Maw. Her consciousness became intermittent and eventually cut off. At the very end, she thought she heard Kyosuke screaming. The idea that she had caused that scream left her final moments filled with regret. That was when Haru first noticed something calling her. Her brain, after recognizing itself as dead, reactivated at the stimulus. The now revitalized cells attempted to revive their functions as a whole. She felt a firm pressure in the area between her chest and stomach. It seemed to squeeze her. There was a slight warmth to it even. Its strength was bestial, and the whole sensation seemed to be a proclamation that whatever force had gripped her would not release its glory. Haru! Her name was called again. This time, it was right next to her ears. Her body reacted to the heated breath. The voice was a man's. The only man who had ever said her name like that was her late father. Thus, this place must be hell. Open your eyes! But what was this burning sensation? It felt similar to when he held her. She didn't care if it was merely a dream. Haru decided to open her eyes. Just maybe. Right, something like this had happened once before. The sky that day had burned with the glow of sunset. She had dropped her precious pocket watch, something her mother had given her, but her life had been spared. The boy had held onto her firmly, as if to protect her. It was exactly like this. She could clearly feel his breath on her back. The ragged yet gentle breathing belonged to the young boy from 10 years ago. Naturally, though, he was no longer the irreverent lad he once was. You've been a real handful. You know that? Her tears flowed out without end. Yeah, it was a close one, all right. Guns have this thing called a safety. If I had spent just a little more time fumbling around with it, you would have been a goner. I shut out the window. She had no recollection of her arm being grabbed at the moment of the fall. But regardless, here she was inside the building, on the safety of solid ground. That was no hallucination. You really did come falling down. Come falling down? Kyosuke went on to explain. This is the 46th floor. I couldn't go any higher because of the fire shutter, so I decided I'd stay here and look around the building for the gondola you were on. You following me? Her head was still a little foggy. The droning of his voice seemed to envelop her in a sort of sugary sensation. Your tits are huge and your hair is crazy long, so catching you at the moment you fell was a piece of cake. There's no way it would be as simple as he said. Haru was either on the 47th or 48th floor. The distance from there to here would be 10 feet at the absolute minimum. Taking into account her weight and the speed of the fall, no human being could just catch that and walk away perfectly fine. She looked over to the window. The window frame was about 3 feet from the ground. He must have been braced his lower body against that space. Otherwise, he would have gone tumbling over the edge along with her. You hung on to the bitter end, huh? You were sticking to that window like a frog. He chuckled. Right. He was able to catch her because she had fallen so close to the window. You don't need to thank me. Just then, she felt the strength leave Kyosuke's arms. He had expended the last of his energy. One look at his soot-stained clothes and slashed fingers was enough to tell the story of the hardships he must have faced. Really? You don't... No. His voice grew weaker. Just let me hear your violin. One more. Kyosuke went still after that. He was still breathing. He just lost consciousness. Haru began to squirm, but on the other hand, she thought it might be nice to stay like this just a little longer. How wonderful would it be to just forget everything else and fall asleep like this? Just a little longer, she thought. She would lie just a little longer in the arms of the man who nearly threw away his life to save her. Alright. Good times. And that is where we will end today's episode. So as always, thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you're enjoying. And I will see you all next time.